Have you noticed how some people don't hurt you? They just quietly empty you until there's nothing left. There is a quiet kind of pain that doesn't announce itself as heartbreak. It doesn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It arrives softly, almost politely. It feels like giving your time, your attention, your patience, your care again and again until one day you notice something unsettling. You are always the one pouring, and you are never the one being refilled. At first, you don't question it. You tell yourself this is what love looks like. You tell yourself that good people give, that strong people endure, that kind people don't keep score. So you keep showing up, you keep understanding, you keep excusing. And slowly, almost invisibly, love begins to feel less like connection and more like depletion. What makes this so difficult is that nothing dramatic happens. No clear betrayal, no obvious cruelty, just a growing sense of emotional exhaustion you can't quite explain. You leave conversations feeling heavy instead of held. You give support and receive silence. You offer empathy and are met with indifference. Yet you still hesitate to name it because part of you wonders if expecting anything back makes you selfish. So you swallow the discomfort, you minimize your needs, you tell yourself you're being too sensitive. But your body knows the truth long before your mind is ready to accept it. You feel tired in ways sleep doesn't fix. You feel lonely even when you're not alone, and that's when love has quietly turned into loss. This is the moment awareness begins, not as an accusation toward anyone else, but as an honest reckoning with yourself. You start to notice that the imbalance isn't occasional. It's a pattern. You're not asking for perfection or constant attention. You're asking for presence, reciprocity, effort, and the absence of those things hurts because it tells a story your heart didn't want to believe, that your giving has become a substitute for mutual care, that you've been using love to hold something together that requires two people to sustain it. Awareness doesn't mean you harden. It doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you finally tell the truth about how it feels to give endlessly without being seen. It means admitting that love should not require self-erasure, that generosity without nourishment eventually becomes resentment, and that staying silent about your emotional hunger doesn't make you noble, it makes you invisible. This realization can feel scary because it challenges the identity you've built around being the one who holds everything together, but it's also the first act of self-respect. The moment you recognize that love is not supposed to drain you is the moment you begin to reclaim yourself. After awareness comes a quieter, more uncomfortable realization. You begin to see that the reason you kept giving wasn't because the other person needed more, it was because somewhere along the way you learned that love had to be earned, that if you were patient enough, understanding enough, generous enough, you would finally be chosen, appreciated, or met with the same depth you offered. This belief doesn't come from weakness, it comes from survival. From moments in your life where being easy, helpful, or self-sacrificing felt safer than asking for what you needed. So you adapted. You became the one who stayed calm, who absorbed the tension, who smoothed things over, and you called it love. But underneath that generosity lived fear. Fear that asking for reciprocity would push people away. Fear that setting limits would make you difficult or unlovable. Fear that if you stopped giving so much, there would be nothing left to hold the connection together. So instead of naming your needs, you overfunctioned, you anticipated feelings, you filled emotional gaps before anyone noticed they existed. You made yourself indispensable, hoping that being needed would one day turn into being valued. And when it didn't, you blamed yourself for not giving enough, rather than questioning why the giving was always one-sided. This is the moment vulnerability enters, not as weakness, but as truth-telling. Vulnerability is admitting that your endless giving has been a way to protect yourself from rejection, that it felt safer to exhaust yourself than to risk hearing, "I can't meet you there." Because if you never asked, you never had to face the possibility that the depth you offered wasn't matched. And yet, that unspoken fear has been shaping your relationships all along. It's been teaching you to trade honesty for harmony and self-expression for emotional survival. There is grief in this realization, grief for the times you abandoned yourself just to keep peace. Grief for the version of you who thought love meant proving your worth through endurance. But there is also relief, because once you see that your overgiving was a learned response, not your true nature, you can begin to loosen its grip. You can start to understand that real connection does not require you to disappear. That mutual love does not demand you be smaller, quieter, or endlessly accommodating. Vulnerability in this sense becomes the courage to feel the fear and still choose honesty, to acknowledge that you deserve love that does not come at the cost of your own well-being. This awareness doesn't change everything overnight, but it changes the question you ask yourself. Instead of asking, how can I give more? You begin to ask, what am I afraid would happen if I gave less? And in that question lives the beginning of freedom. At some point, you realize that the word boundary has been whispered in your mind like a foreign language, something you've heard about but never fully understood. You were taught to give, to accommodate, to forgive, to be patient, and somewhere along the way you absorbed the belief that protecting your own heart was selfish, that saying no would hurt someone else more than it hurt you to stay silent. So you stayed silent, you smiled, you agreed, you nodded, you stretched yourself thinner than anyone could ever notice, and for a long time that felt like the right thing to do. It felt like love, until one day love started to feel like a weight pressing down on your chest, and you realized that the absence of boundaries doesn't make you kind, it makes you invisible, even to yourself. Boundaries are not walls, they are not punishments or rejections, they are statements of self-respect, quiet declarations that your energy, your time, and your heart have value. They are the courage to say, without shame or apology, that you will not allow yourself to be depleted to maintain someone else's comfort. But that courage is hard because for so long you've been trained to confuse resistance with hostility, self-care with selfishness, and protection with abandonment. And the truth is, drawing a line doesn't make you unkind, it makes you human, it makes you whole, it makes you capable of offering love from a place of fullness instead of scarcity. There is fear in learning to hold boundaries, fear that people will leave, fear that love will disappear, fear that being honest about your limits will make you unworthy of the connections you desire. But what you begin to understand is that the people who truly belong in your life will not see boundaries as rejection, they will see them as respect for the bond you share. And the people who cannot honor those boundaries will reveal themselves not as villains, but as signs, as gentle, necessary indicators that your energy was being misaligned with theirs. Setting boundaries doesn't push love away. It clears the space for it to arrive where it's real, mutual, and sustaining. When you finally practice this, even in the smallest ways, you notice a shift. Conversations feel lighter. Moments of connection feel deeper. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone else's needs to feel worthy. You begin to trust that you are enough, just as you are, without overextending, without earning love through sacrifice. And this trust grows quietly, steadily, until it becomes a foundation you can stand on, even when life tests you with old habits and familiar people who have taken more than they give. Boundaries are not the absence of love. They are the framework through which love can finally thrive without costing you yourself. This realization is not instant. It is a process of unlearning, of noticing, of choosing differently again and again. But each time you honor your limits, you are reclaiming a piece of yourself that was lost in the service of others. And in that reclamation, you discover a freedom you didn't know was possible, a freedom to love without losing yourself, to give without fear of emptiness, and to finally step into the life that mirrors your worth rather than your endurance. Choosing yourself doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It comes with quiet moments of reckoning, when you realize that all the energy you've poured into people, situations, or expectations that never refilled you could have been poured into your own life instead. It comes in the small but powerful decision to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for needing space, for wanting respect, for expecting reciprocity. At first, it feels selfish because the world has trained you to measure love by sacrifice, to see generosity as virtue and self-prioritization as sin. And yet, the truth is that true kindness starts with the self. True love starts with the self. You cannot fully show up for others if you are constantly running on empty, giving from a place of fear, guilt, or habit instead of abundance. There is a strange mixture of fear and relief that comes with choosing yourself. Fear because you worry that others will see you as different, difficult, or unloving. Relief because you finally realize that being true to yourself doesn't destroy relationships, it simply filters out those that were never meant to align with your heart. You begin to notice that when you stop overextending, the world does not collapse. The people who matter, the ones who truly belong, adjust, grow, and meet you in the space you create. And the relationships that are one-sided become clearer, not as betrayals, but as evidence that you have been valuing yourself enough to see the truth. This is not about becoming cold or hard. It is about becoming whole. It is about saying yes to yourself as often as you have said yes to everyone else. It is about listening to the subtle whispers inside, the ones that have been drowned out by guilt, obligation, or habit, and finally trusting that your needs are valid. You begin to practice courage in the smallest ways, declining a request that drains you, voicing your truth even when your heart trembles, taking time to care for yourself without justification. Each act, though small, is revolutionary because it rewires your sense of worth. You are no longer invisible to yourself, And as this shift deepens, something remarkable happens. Love stops feeling like a transaction, like an exchange where you give and hope, pray, or bribe for return. Instead, love becomes expansive, not because it requires sacrifice, but because it is offered freely from a place of wholeness. You begin to see that when you stop disappearing, when you stop bending yourself to fit into someone else's expectations, you become more present, more vibrant, more magnetic, not to manipulate or control, but simply because you are fully you. The courage to choose yourself may not always be easy. It may come with loneliness, with guilt, with the echo of old beliefs that tell you that love demands suffering. But every time you make that choice, you reinforce a truth your heart has always known, that your worth is not contingent on how much you give, and that love is healthiest when it is mutual, nurturing, and life-giving. Choosing yourself is not the end of love, it is the beginning of a life where love no longer depletes, where relationships sustain, and where your heart is finally free to expand without fear of emptiness. When you finally stop pouring love into places that never refill you, a quiet kind of growth begins. It is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, like the slow turning of light at dawn. You notice that the space you created by saying no, by honoring your limits, by choosing yourself, is not empty at all, it is fertile. It is space for clarity, for connection, for energy that actually returns. You begin to understand that what drains you cannot sustain you, and that holding on to relationships, habits, or people that consistently leave you depleted does not make you loyal. It makes you invisible to your own needs. There is a strange beauty in this realization. The truth is never loud, it is steady, quiet, and unwavering, and it feels like finally breathing after holding your breath for years. This growth is not just emotional, it is spiritual, psychological, and physical. You notice how your body relaxes when you are no longer carrying the weight of unreciprocated giving. Your mind clears when you stop rehearsing ways to fix others' shortcomings. Your heart softens because it is no longer hardened by exhaustion, resentment, or unmet expectations. And in this space, the relationships that remain are more genuine, more reciprocal, more alive, because they are no longer shadows cast by your overgiving. You realize that love that is real, love that is worth holding on to, does not deplete you, it nurtures you, challenges you in healthy ways, and allows your soul to expand instead of contract. The inner struggle here is subtle but profound. You have lived with the fear that choosing yourself means you will be alone, that standing firm in your worth will push people away. But what you begin to notice is the opposite. When you stop leaking your energy into those who will never give back, you create room for people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your true self. You begin to attract connections that are nourishing rather than draining, that honor your heart rather than testing its limits. You start to understand that being alone sometimes is not punishment, it is preparation, it is clarity, it is the soil where your true life begins to grow. In this process, gratitude quietly emerges, not the superficial kind, but a deep, grounded recognition of your own resilience. You see how far you have come, how many times you have loved, forgiven, and given, and how many lessons that love has taught you. You see that the emptiness you once felt was not a reflection of your inadequacy, but a sign that your heart was ready for alignment, ready for mutuality, ready to expand without sacrificing itself. You feel pride in your courage to face discomfort, to say no, to step into boundaries, and to choose yourself again and again, even when it was terrifying. And finally, in this space of growth, love becomes a conscious choice rather than a compulsion. You give freely, but you also receive fully. You nurture, but you are nurtured. You care deeply, but you are not exhausted by your care. And with each passing day, you realize that the act of stopping the endless giving is not a loss, it is liberation. It is a reclamation of your emotional energy, your peace, and your life. The strength you discover in this process is quiet, steady, and undeniable, and it carries with it a profound truth: the right people, the right relationships, the right love do not survive your sacrifice, they thrive alongside your strength, and in that thriving, you finally see your own value reflected back at you in ways that never leave you empty again.